So Matthew, here is a scenario for you. You are the manager of Telltale Games, a relatively big gaming studio. You've had, some hits and misses over the past couple of years with your games, sort of okayish reviews, but sales haven't been amazing as they once were. Do you A, let your employees know the situation so that they can be prepared for, any big changes such as the company going bankrupt and them losing their jobs? Or do you B, keep them completely in the dark, leave them with 30 minutes on the day that they show up to work to get their belongings out of the building and clear out, give them no severance pay, and have people who joined the company only as recently as a week ago go completely without jobs?
Well, it's not a matter of whether I do it or not, it's a matter of whether Telltale did it.
Yep, seems like Telltale's choice has finally caught up with them.
I get it. Telltale will remember that.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we're covering this, if you haven't already heard the news, Telltale Games is in extreme dire straits, apparently going bankrupt, may not even finish the new Walking Dead game, the ones that some unfortunate assholes have actually prepaid for. So, this episodic shit, this 5 episodes pay in advance stuff is kind of for the birds. But the reason why we're covering it is because we have a love-hate relationship with Telltale, historically. Historically, they've had excellent writing. The stories that they tell are amazing. Tales from the Borderland, Wolf Among Us, and of course the original Walking Dead. But I've always had a disdain for them because of the illusion of choice that the games allegedly had. And now it seems like that staleness that they've had for years has finally caught up with them.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, I haven't really played a lot of Telltale games simply because most of them just didn't appeal to me. I played, the only one I've played in full is the Back to the Future one. 5 guesses as to why.
Yeah, I only need one.
Why? And I also...
And that's your Parkinson's.
Jesus Christ. And I also played some of the Game of Thrones one, but I just got really bored after the first episode, so I didn't bother playing any more of it.
You said it felt like a fan fiction.
That's what all of them feel like, really. They feel like somebody else's fan fiction because... And here's the problem with Telltale Games.
Was the problem.
They rely mostly on IPs that are already out there. And so because of this, they try to make you, feel like you're part of the world. They try and come up with these characters and these side stories, these already established universes. But because of the nature of the IPs that they choose, the games can't interfere too much with the main story and everything that's going on. Hence with, the Game of Thrones game, the characters from the show were there, but you couldn't really have huge impacts on them because obviously it wouldn't coincide with what happens in the series.
Yeah, but not like you ever expected the Ironwood chick, the maid who's over at King's Landing to usurp the throne and become, sit on the Iron Throne and have Daenerys kiss her ass. But the way that we've discussed it traditionally is these are smaller stories in larger universes, and that I respect. But again, you can't have anything that has a huge branching choose your own adventure kind of path because, let's say the end of the original Walking Dead, what if, the big sad ending, you could have some effect on that. Well, then when season 2 rolls out, how the hell does that pick up?
Mm-hmm. And this is, to do with your whole illusion of choice. You can't really have too much choice because if you have too much choice and it really does affect the outcome, you could have any number of endings which would have to all be picked up from in the next episode or the next season. And then that next season would have to have a bunch of different endings, which means that season 3 would have to account for that, and so on and so forth.
The only way we could possibly do it is if you had a handful of characters, each season would have to be kind of like its own unique episode with just a couple of characters, meeting new characters, I guess, like they did with The Walking Dead, the original, the second season with it.
And the thing is with Telltale Games as well is that some of their IP choices have been very questionable, such as the Minecraft.
Yeah, they're not going to finish The Walking Dead. You know, the fucking game that put them on the map. The fucking game that they model all the rest of their fucking games after.
The game that everyone's already paid for and, you know, is already halfway done.
Yeah, but they're going to finish the new Minecraft game because, you know, that's contractually obligated, I guess. But here's the thing. Apparently, from what I've seen on the net, about 25 people are left in the company. They did a mass firing, you know, up to 225 people gone. Other development studios like Blizzard and Paradox have said, hey, if you're a ex-Telltale game writer, come talk to us. We can probably help you out. And I can see why, because they want these quality storytellers. That makes sense. But I'm first of all pissed because they canceled Wolf Among Us Season 2, because the first Wolf Among Us series was fantastic. But I don't know. It's shocking in a way, but apparently for people who are in the know and were actually in the environment and had their ears to the ground in the gaming scene better than us, which is just about everybody, the writing has been on the wall with Telltale. Mm-hmm. First of all, we talked about the staleness of this illusion of choice that the original Walking Dead had, where everyone's like, oh shit, you know, oh my god, you know, this character died, I'm gonna restart the entire fucking game because I can't go on like this. Well, little did you know that no matter how you play the game, you get to the exact same conclusion. Mm-hmm. So you have that. The people are wising up to this illusion of choice nonsense. The stories are still great, fine. But the illusion of choice that hinges, their entire game model for all their things are hinged on that, and they've never decided to evolve to the point where they can actually start doing more of this. I mean, you think that a company that's been making essentially the same type of game for the last, 10 years?
14 years.
14 years? Jesus Christ. How long have they been doing this? Certainly the PlayStation 3.
Walking Dead came out around 2012.
Okay, so let's just round up 6 years, just because The Walking Dead has become their template for all the rest of their games. Art style, even the game engine, which we're going to get to in a second here. So, they haven't evolved past The Walking Dead and the illusion of choice, which is annoying as hell. Secondly, the engine itself, the game engine, apparently hasn't been updated at all, because I don't know why. Apparently, they were considering going to Unity.
Well,
in
I
the
mean,
future.
this is the whole problem, and you know, from what I've read, the whole of the way Telltale is run, it just stinks of just laziness, really, over the past couple of years. The fact that they developed the engine that they are still using back in 2004, and while they have updated it over the years, it's still the same engine, which is why so many of their games have just had weird bugs and lip sync problems.
Missing faces.
Yeah, very recently they announced, well, they didn't announce, very recently it was revealed that they were planning on switching over to Unity, which, I mean, in the vast array of gaming engines out there, Unity is not, you know, very well known for, you know, being used by professionals.
Well, it can be used by professionals. It's just more known for being used by hacks.
And, you know, when you're a big company like Telltale Games, or at least if you were a big company like Telltale Games was, you'd think that, you know, you would...
Unreal Engine or something.
Yeah, you would have a new engine. You would try to update some of your shit.
Rewrite your existing engine.
When I say laziness, I'm not talking about the employees,
oh God,
you know,
no.
and the writers and all that. I'm talking about the managers, just the stupid decisions that they seem to have been making over the past few years. What with
CEO Kevin Bruner,
yes,
who apparently sued Telltale Games in last June, seeking damages. And Telltale Games apparently has been very vocal about their feelings about this Bruner guy, saying, quote, "Now that Bruner is gone, we need to do damage control that his leadership has caused." And I imagine that this stagnation is part of it. The third thing I want to get to, according to tweets from former employees of Telltale Games, was that their working conditions were appalling. It reeks of the fact that they're talking about having to work overtime, long hours just to meet deadlines, and they weren't getting paid overtime. That reeks of that fresh out of college mentality that I absolutely despise.
Exploitation.
Exactly, where a company is more than eager to hire a fresh-faced, out of college, kid and then just work the fuck out of them. I mean, say, oh yeah, if you do a really good job here, there's a good chance you might be a full-time employee. No, there isn't. There is not.
Never work overtime unless you're getting paid for it.
Never work for anything unless you're getting some type of compensation. Period. I mean, this what is it when they ask artists to give people free shit exposure?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, the people who are working at Telltale Games, it might be paying off because if other companies snatch them up, that might work well for them. But right now, they're in a complete clusterfuck because of mismanagement. And fucking over employees like this is one of the telltale signs of mismanagement. So the writing was on the wall. But that's to me, that's just the sickest part is when you work someone to death with a false promise that they're going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, and can I also chime in and say that, this isn't unique to the gaming world. Don't think that Telltale is the only company that does this because they do not #EA Games.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a bajillion places out there. Microsoft has done it to former college friends of mine. Animation studios do the same thing where they bleed person dry. I mean, these companies will do... You're just a cog in a machine, and the minute that you have overstayed your welcome, or let's say the cog is broken, they replace you with just the exact same amount of empathy as replacing the piece of machinery. So don't work unless you're getting compensated, period. But anyways, so the writing was, for the most part, on the wall. Even the Netflix tie-in for Stranger Things that they were trying to work out fell through, which is the one IP that didn't work. I mean, do you remember that game? Probably not, though, but there's that game called Night at the Inventory. There's 2 games, and they incorporate like GLaDOS and Tycho from Penny Arcade, and it kind of, to me, reeks of like a blowjob trying to get other people to be like, hey, we'll make games for you. We'll do it cheap. We can eat your IP. Which comes in number 4 on my list, which is the IP oversaturation. The entire business model for Telltale Games seems to be IP the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, this kind of smells like LJN, the one that the company that AVGN always gets pissy about.
The one who was notorious for making bad movie licensed games.
Now, granted, Telltale made good stories from these IPs, not good games. I stand firm on my belief that Telltale Games could tell a tale, but they couldn't make a game because QuickTime events. They could
make good games if you were a game reviewer. If you were a game critic who doesn't know how to actually play games, it was, Can
we please have a game where you don't have to do any boss battles, or you don't have to fight enemies? You can just walk through the levels and just enjoy it.
You mean there's no skill required? Well,
exactly.
I'm sold.
Oh my god! You mean my character can't jump over this thing, or I can't shoot this zombie in Doom? I mean, oh my god! Devil May Cry 5. How come there's no music? It's because the music that you hear is dependent on how good you're doing.
Well, and the thing with IPs is that, again, some of the IPs that they were going for were very questionable. I mean, there are...
Minecraft.
If they wanted to go for an existing IP to build a story around, I mean, there's much...
John Wick.
There's better things out there to do that with. Even, like, something like Five Nights at Freddy's, I mean, that could work. If they were to make a story-based game set in that kind of universe.
But again, I still don't think they make games, because originally Telltale Games, when they were doing stuff like the Strong Bad game and Back to the Future even... I'll use an IP that you're familiar with. They actually had point-and-click elements where you have to find objects, you have to interact with certain things in the right order, find the right things, solve puzzles. And then it's just become press X to continue the game. Mm-hmm. That's all. I mean, as much as I love the story of Tales from the Borderlands, there was no gameplay in that fucking thing. It was walk straight, press X. Walk straight, press X. QuickTime event. You make a choice. Choice doesn't matter. Fuck you. I mean, the only other thing good Telltale Games honestly had was the choices of their soundtracks. I mean, they could pick some really fucking great music.
Yeah. But I think the thing with Telltale is that because of the huge success they had with The Walking Dead, they just thought, well...
They got complacent.
Yeah, they got essentially that complacent. Because, I mean, since then, there have been very few, like, Telltale games that have really... reach that level of success. Mm-hmm. I mean, The Wolf Among Us, and then the other Walking Dead game, but then they had Walking Dead Michonne, which is, just taking a character from the TV show because they thought, oh, well,
She's popular.
Yeah, this is a popular character, let's build one around her. I'm guessing that the only reason they didn't do one for Daryl was because he already had a game coming out from The Walking Dead.
And that Daryl game crashed and burned like a motherfucker.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Oh, come on, it's precious Daryl. I mean,
Excuse me, now that Negan's in it, I don't need Daryl anymore.
We know you silently ship Negan and Daryl together.
Ew, no. I ship me and Negan together.
And Daryl. You get a little spit roast going.
Hey, if Negan can have multiple wives, why can't I have multiple husbands?
Equality.
But I feel like the thing with Telltale is that the IPs that they went for, the existing fans of those IPs just weren't interested. Because I would say, for me, I was already a Game of Thrones fan, but I just wasn't interested in the Game of Thrones game because, yeah, alright, I'm interacting with the characters, but I'm having no real impact on the larger story. However, for something like, the Back to the Future game, because it was already an ended franchise, you had a lot more freedom in how you could approach it. But with something like Game of Thrones that was still going on at the time, of the game, what could you do? You didn't know what was coming next in the series, so you couldn't really do too much in the game.
Right, but you could kind of, you could world build. That is an option, but then again, it does feel like fan fiction because the new character meets Tyrion Lannister. He meets Cersei Lannister, or she meets Cersei Lannister. There's too much elbow rubbing with the bigwigs. It's like there's little chance of me meeting a fucking president. There's little chance of me meeting a fucking movie star, and that's kind of what it felt like. If it was just an independent thing with a couple of small references to the larger world, it would have worked fine. But instead, they added people who it just felt like fan fiction.
It almost felt like in Forrest.
My Mary Sue is popular.
It almost felt like that part in Forrest Gump where like they'd photo edit him into like
Kennedy
footage
and shit.
of
Forrest Gump on the grassy knoll.
Forrest Gump just standing there at Ned Stark's beheading, just in the crowd,
eating popcorn.
Yeah. Drinking a Diet Coke, or no, drinking a Diet Pepsi.
But yeah, that's what it felt like. A lot of stuff kind of did feel like fan fiction. They weren't really games, but we're kind of beating a dead horse at this point.
Well, I feel like as well, they because the games are they're exactly the same, just with a different coat of paint, and I think people just got bored of it. That kind of type of game, it's boring now.
Well,
people want an expansion of their older ideas, not just the same thing rehashed.
Yeah, and there's also a reversion, a pulling back of what they were doing. I mean, again, going back to the Future, point and click elements, puzzle solving, all that kind of stuff. And the later games, it was just walk forward and hit X. And believe me, you do that a couple times, and people notice. Gamers notice. And at that point, if you want to experience a story, well, honestly, you can just go to YouTube because you have no intention of playing the game anyway. Yeah, I've seriously considered doing that for the Batman one, unless they have a hell of a deep discount on their games on Steam as like a going out of business bonanza, like it's a mattress store.
Well, one of the things as well is that that because your choices don't really have an impact on the game, there's no reason to go back and replay the game.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the reasons why people replayed the first one so many times, because they're like, oh, maybe I can get a different ending. Maybe I won't die at the end. And it's like, oh,
maybe I can save this person. Maybe maybe something else will happen. But by and large, it's all the same. And the thing is, a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, it's because Let's Players that this has happened. And it's like, well, if that's the case, then Telltale should have realized that years ago and implemented some actual gameplay.
Yes.
I mean, there are plenty of story-driven games out there that are very successful because they also have good gameplay. Look at the new Spider-Man game that just came out. It's not online, it doesn't have multiplayer, it doesn't have Battle Royale mode. It's a story-driven game, but people were playing it, and they love it because of the gameplay.
Makes you feel like Spider-Man. Makes you feel. The Telltale Games didn't make you feel enough.
It has to be
originally you got the feels, but now there's enough feel, like the Spider-Man feel game. Spider-Man feel.
It has to be that kind of, the combination of a story and gameplay.
Yeah, yes.
Because I feel like Telltale Games are ignoring the latter half of their name.
Well, that's the kind of thing is, people always say, story is important in games, especially fucking game reviewers. No, the gameplay is what's important in a game. Otherwise, watch a movie.
Don't get me wrong, story can add to a game.
Yes, that's fine, but I also think that John Carmack of id Software / Doom fame kind of had it right. You know, a story in a game is like story in a porno. It doesn't really matter. You just want to get to the action. You know what I mean? But again, I'll lean in on having good stories in games because, you know, you're right. It does add to it. It gives you motivation to do what you're doing. But if it's only story and all you do is press forward and X, Order 19 or 1866, whatever the fuck that game was, it's boring.
Yeah, or it's kind of like reading one of those choose your own adventure books.
except everything, except there's no going back and forth on pages. You just keep on going forward.
Well, except that it
ends on the same page.
Yeah, it all ends on the same page. It's essentially, you know, a journey to the same destination, but you take different roads. Maybe this road goes slightly more to the left, but it's still the same final destination.
It's still very fatalistic / nihilistic. all roads end up in the same place, and your choices don't matter.
I mean, don't get me wrong. These types of games that Telltale, you know, create, they can work. I mean, they have worked in the past, but we're at a point in gaming now where, you know, the story isn't a novelty anymore. Big games do have stories, so you need more than that to get by. Right.
Let's say if Telltale Games could have kind of charted a new course that apparently this CEO Kevin Bruner may not have done, and I'm only speculating here because I didn't work there. Imagine the original Walking Dead season 1, and you think, okay, you know, that was pretty good, but you know, the criticism is choice didn't really matter. Not a whole lot of choices didn't really matter. Kind of ended at the same place. And like, okay, well, we'll have a couple different branching arcs in our follow-up game. I mean, it's a logical place to go. You want to progress. You want to evolve. You don't want to just stay stagnant because, you know, you'll go extinct. And you certainly don't want to go backwards. So, you know, you add like, okay, we're going to have branching paths. Okay. People said that we want more puzzles. Okay, we'll make more puzzles. Maybe some items that you find affect the outcome of the game. You know, like let's say in The Walking Dead especially, if you don't find the right amount of bullets, you can't save the person that might die at the end. I mean, there's a handful of smaller things they could have done gradually with each new game, especially with these IP. I don't know if they're getting money from the IPs or if they had to really suck dick for it. But I don't know.
You know what would have given them total freedom is if they came up with something on their own.
And yeah, but again, you'd have to they'd have to have a unique idea, which again, most of the Jurassic Park, frickin' Homestar Runner, Back to the Future, Walking Dead, all these things are IPs that people know about, and they've never really done anything in recent years that involves their own creation, which is unfortunate.
Especially since, you know, the majority of staff at Telltale are story writers.
Yeah, they could have made their own thing. Had total control over their own universe. It's unfortunate.
But again, laziness. And again, that's not the employees, that's the management. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, and I think that's what everyone else is kind of seeing as well, is that the reason this has happened is because of poor management.
Mm-hmm. CEO Pete Hawley issued the following statement. It's been an incredibly difficult year for Telltale as we work to set the company on a new course. See, something like that would have been, you know, great, but I think that the damage by that point has been done. Anyways, continuing with the quote. Unfortunately, we ran out of time trying to get there. Yep, told you. We released some of our best content this year and received a tremendous amount of positive feedback, but ultimately it did not translate into sales. Again, fans kind of wised up. I really think that the stories may have been great, but the gameplay has just been eh. Continuing with the quote, with a heavy heart, we watch our friends leave today to spread our brand of storytelling across the games industry. Well,
that really should read, with a heavy heart, we watch our friends be kicked out of their offices today and scramble to try and find any of their belongings that are left in the building.
Mm-hmm. Because, folks, remember, you're only one paycheck away from being homeless.
And that's the thing as well, and that because these employees didn't receive severance packages, it's, you know, they can't even have a couple of days to rest between now and starting to look for a new job.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know how long it takes to look for a new job? It could take months. Mm-hmm. I mean, it could take even, in some people, a half year.
Some of these employees moved across the country.
Yeah. Can you imagine moving all the way across? Can you imagine moving that to a whole new country and finding out there's no job there?
And you know what?
Me in England, London.
And you know what as well? For those of you who ordered the season pass for The Walking Dead that is now not going to be completed, I doubt you'll get your money back. If they can't even give severance packages or severance pay to these employees, don't count on getting your money back.
Yep. You're not going to get the end. You're not going to get the wrap-up for the character Clementine, which was the main character in the first game that really was their big award-winning success.
The only character who's, survived. And, what have we learned, folks? Never pay for something that isn't finished.
Mm-hmm.
Never work for free.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a big gaming studio...
You have to evolve.
Yes.
You cannot stay in the same place forever, because time will pass you by.
Gamers will remember that. And we're out.
Yeah.